While I was lying in a hospital bed with a shattered femur and 3 broken ribs, my boyfriend was posting photos of himself at a party with his ex-girlfriend. The caption read, "Finally breathing again without the constant weight of someone else's neediness." We had been together for 4 years. I need to tell you this story. All of it. Because sometimes the most painful moments in our lives become the moments that save us. My name is Sarah, and I am 25 years old. I live in Columbus, Ohio, though I am originally from a small town about 2 hours south. If you are watching this from anywhere in the Midwest, or honestly anywhere at all, I would love to know where you are tuning in from. Drop your city in the comments below. Sometimes it helps to know we are not alone in these experiences, no matter where we are. Let me take you back to the beginning. I met Marcus 4 years ago at a volunteer event. My company organized. We were renovating a community center in the Short North District. I was assigned to the painting team, and Marcus was supposedly leading the landscaping crew. He spent most of the day talking about his vision for sustainable urban gardens while the rest of us did the actual work. But there was something charming about his passion. He could make pulling weeds sound like poetry. He told me that sometimes things need to be uprooted before better things can grow. I thought he was profound. Turns out he was just really good at ripping things out and leaving nothing in their place. For 4 years, I supported Marcus while he found himself. That is what he called it. Finding himself. Apparently, finding yourself is very expensive and requires someone else to pay for everything while you do it. Marcus was between careers for about 70% of our relationship. When he did work, it was always temporary. A few weeks at a coffee shop, a month doing food delivery. 2 weeks at his friend's startup that never actually started up. Meanwhile, I worked 50 hours a week as a dental hygienist, picking up extra shifts whenever I could. The apartment we lived in was mine. Only my name was on the lease because Marcus had what he called a temporary credit situation. 4 years of temporary, he contributed to rent exactly 9 times in 4 years. I know the exact number because I kept every receipt, every bank statement, thinking someday he would pay me back when things turned around. I spent nights creating spreadsheets of our expenses while he played video games in the next room, headphones on, completely oblivious to my existence unless he was hungry. But I loved him. Or I loved who I thought he could become. Every time he smiled at me, every time he held my hand, every time he promised that next month would be different, I believed him. Love makes you do that. It makes you see potential where there is only emptiness. The accident happened on a Tuesday evening in March. I was driving home from work, exhausted from a 10-hour shift. I remember stopping at the red light on High Street. I remember the radio playing that new Taylor Swift song. Then I remember nothing until I woke up in the hospital. A drunk driver had slammed into my Honda Civic at 60 miles per hour. The doctors told me I was lucky. My femur was shattered in 2 places, 3 ribs broken, a severe concussion, internal bruising. But I was alive. Marcus visited me once in the 8 days I was in the hospital. He stayed for 15 minutes. He said hospitals made him anxious, that the smell reminded him of his grandmother's death. He needed to process this trauma in his own space. His trauma, while I was lying there with metal rods being surgically placed in my leg, he needed space to process his feelings about my accident. My best friend Emma stayed with me every single night. She slept in that torture device they call a chair. She helped me to the bathroom when I was too proud to call the nurses. She smuggled in real food from that Thai place I love on Parsons Avenue. She washed my hair in the sink because I could not shower. She held my hand when the pain was so bad I could not breathe. That is love, not the poetry and promises. The showing up. On day 5 in the hospital, Emma was scrolling through her phone when her face changed. She tried to hide it, but I know her too well. When I asked what was wrong, she said it was nothing. But nothing does not make your best friend look like she wants to commit murder. I grabbed her phone. There it was. Instagram. Marcus at a house party, his arm around his ex-girlfriend Jessica. The caption, "Finally breathing again without the constant weight of someone else's neediness." 4 years. 4 years of my life. My money, my energy, my love. And while I was learning to breathe through the pain of broken bones, he was celebrating his freedom from my neediness. The neediness of expecting a partner to visit you in the hospital. The neediness of thinking someone who claimed to love you might actually care that you almost died. I did not cry. Not then. I just stared at that photo and felt something inside me shift. Like tectonic plates realigning. Like every excuse I had ever made for him suddenly crumbling. Emma started to say something, but I held up my hand. I needed to think. That is when I remembered something important. Something that would change everything. The apartment lease was in my name. Only my name. Marcus had been living there rent-free for 3 years, but legally he was just a guest. A guest who had overstayed his welcome. I made some calls from that hospital bed. First, my landlord, Tony. I explained the situation. Tony had never liked Marcus anyway. Said he gave him bad vibes, always making excuses when Tony came for maintenance. Tony was more than happy to help. Then I called my brother David. David is 6'3" and works construction. He has never liked Marcus either, but kept quiet because he wanted me to be happy. When I told him what I needed, he just said, "Finally, when do you want it done?" Then I called my cousin, who is a paralegal. I wanted to make sure everything I was about to do was completely legal. She assured me that since Marcus was not on the lease and had not established tenancy through consistent rent payment, I was within my rights. She even offered to draft an official notice, though we both knew he would be gone before any legal notice period expired. The plan was simple. While I recovered at Emma's apartment, David and his crew would pack up everything that belonged to Marcus. Every gaming console, every designer sneaker he bought with money he should have used for rent, every piece of clothing, every book he never read but displayed to look intellectual. Every single thing that was his, and they would put it somewhere special. Not in storage, not at his mother's house, in the dumpster behind our building. Some people might say that was cruel. Those people have never supported a grown man for 4 years while he treated you like an ATM with benefits. Those people have never been told they are needy for expecting basic human decency. Those people have never seen someone celebrate their absence while they are lying broken in a hospital bed. David sent me photos as they worked. Marcus's precious gaming setup, the one he spent $3,000 on while I was rationing groceries, went in first. His collection of vinyl records that he claimed were investments but never played. His exercise equipment that he used exactly twice. The designer clothes he bought for job interviews he never went to. All of it, in the dumpster where it belonged. They were thorough but not destructive. Nothing was broken or damaged before being thrown away. We simply relocated his possessions to their rightful home among the garbage. I did have David keep one box of actually important documents. Birth certificate, social security card, tax returns. Those went to Tony the landlord. I am not a monster, just a woman who finally understood her worth. The best part was that Marcus had no idea. While he was posting pictures with Jessica, while he was telling everyone how free he felt, his entire life was being evicted along with him. He tried to come home the next day, but Tony had already changed the locks on my request. According to Tony, Marcus stood there for 20 minutes, trying his key over and over, like repetition would somehow change reality. Eventually, he started yelling, demanding to be let in. Tony, bless him, just called the police for trespassing. That is when Marcus finally tried to contact me. 47 messages in 3 hours. They started angry. How dare you? You cannot do this. All my stuff is in there. Then they turned desperate. Please, baby, we can talk about this. I was drunk. I did not mean it. Jessica means nothing. Then came the threats. I will sue you. You will pay for this. This is illegal. My cousin had prepared me for this. I responded once, simply, you are not on the lease. You have not paid rent in 6 months. Your belongings were disposed of as abandoned property. Do not contact me again. He tried calling, 93 times in 2 days. I blocked him. He tried calling from other numbers. I blocked those too. He showed up at Emma's apartment building, but the doorman would not let him up. He sent emails. I forwarded them to my cousin, who sent him a cease and desist letter. Then his mother called. Patricia. This woman had spent 4 years treating me like I should be grateful her son even looked at me. She would make comments about my job, saying Marcus was meant for bigger things than dating a dental hygienist. She would criticize my appearance, my cooking, my apartment, everything. But now she was crying on the phone, begging me to reconsider. She said, Marcus told her everything. How I had thrown away priceless family heirlooms. How I had destroyed his entire life over a misunderstanding. How he was homeless now because of my vindictiveness. I let her talk for exactly 2 minutes. Then I told her the truth. I told her about the 9 rent payments in 4 years. I told her about the $11,000 in credit card debt I accumulated supporting her son. I told her about working overtime to cover his expenses while he spent his days gaming. I told her about the 1 hospital visit. I told her about the Instagram post. And then I told her that if she was so concerned about her son being homeless, perhaps she should offer him a place to stay. She hung up on me. If you are still watching this and if any of this resonates with you, please hit that like button. Sometimes we need to hear these stories to recognize our own patterns. Share this with anyone who needs to remember their worth. Marcus had been telling everyone a different story, of course. According to him, I had kicked him out because I was jealous of Jessica. He said I was controlling and unstable. He said he had been planning to leave me anyway because I was holding him back from his dreams. His dreams that he never actually pursued while I was paying for everything. But here is the thing about truth. It has a way of surfacing. His friend Jake reached out to me. Jake had lent Marcus $2,000 6 months ago for a business opportunity that Marcus said we were investing in together. I had never heard of this loan or this business. Then his other friend Carlos called. Marcus owed him $800. His cousin, his former roommate, person after person calling me asking if I knew when Marcus would pay them back. I told them all the same thing. Marcus has been lying to you. He has been lying to everyone. I have not seen any of that money. I have been supporting him entirely for years. They were shocked. Marcus had told them all that he was the primary breadwinner, that I was struggling with mental health issues and he was taking care of me. The fiction this man created was elaborate. The real plot twist came 2 weeks later. While I was still recovering, still using a walker to get around Emma's apartment, I got a call from Jessica. Yes, the ex-girlfriend from the Instagram post. She was crying. Marcus had moved in with her after I kicked him out. She let him because he told her I had been abusing him emotionally and financially for years. He said he had nowhere else to go. Within 2 weeks, he had drained her bank account. $1,600 gone. He said it was for a security deposit on a new apartment, but there was no apartment. He said it was for a job training program, but there was no program. The money just disappeared into gaming purchases and alcohol. When she confronted him, he convinced her she was being paranoid and unsupportive. Classic Marcus. But Jessica was smarter than I had been. She kicked him out immediately. She also did something I had not thought to do. She contacted every woman he had ever dated. Turns out I was not his first victim. The woman before me, Stephanie, had supported him for 2 years. The woman before her, Amanda, had lost her apartment because of him. We were a pattern. A long line of women who fell for the same potential, the same promises, the same poetry about growth and transformation. We created a group chat. 5 women who had all been financially and emotionally drained by Marcus Peterson. We compared notes. The same lies. The same excuses. The same cycle. He would find women with stable jobs and generous hearts. Make us feel special. Move in within months. Slowly stop contributing. Make us feel guilty for expecting basic partnership. Then leave when we finally had enough, but not before destroying our credit and self-esteem. One of the women, Amanda, mentioned something that made my blood run cold. Marcus had been fired from his last real job for stealing from the company. Not money, but equipment. Laptops, phones, office supplies. He had convinced her it was a misunderstanding. But now she realized it was a pattern. Everything was a pattern with Marcus. That is when I made a decision that some people might judge me for. Marcus had recently gotten a new job. A real job with a financial planning firm downtown. The irony of Marcus giving anyone financial advice was not lost on me. But here is the thing. He got that job using my friend's recommendation. My friend Rebecca had vouched for him because I had asked her to months ago, back when I still believed in his potential. I called Rebecca and told her everything. The debt, the lies, the theft from previous employers, the pattern of deception. She was mortified. She immediately contacted her boss. Marcus had not even started the job yet, just signed the offer letter. They rescinded the offer that same day. Not because of what I said, but because they did a more thorough background check based on the information I provided. Turns out lying on your resume about your employment history is grounds for immediately termination of a job offer. Marcus found out, of course. This time he did not call or text. He showed up at my actual job. My workplace, with me on crutches. Still recovering, he had the audacity to come to the dental practice where I work and cause a scene. He screamed that I had ruined his life. That I was vindictive and evil. That he would sue me for defamation and loss of income. My boss, Dr. Chen, called the police. Marcus was escorted out in handcuffs. Not arrested, just removed and banned from the property. But everyone saw, all my coworkers, all the patients. Everyone saw what kind of man I had wasted 4 years on. I should have been embarrassed, but I was not. I was free. The legal threats never materialized, of course. What lawyer would take his case? With what money would he pay them? The last I heard from Patricia, his mother, she had refused to let him move back home after learning about the money he had stolen from his friends. Even she had finally reached her limit. It has been 6 months now since the accident. 6 months since that Instagram post that changed everything. My leg has healed, though I still have bad days when the weather changes. I have a scar that runs from my knee to my hip. I call it my freedom scar. It reminds me that sometimes we need to be broken before we can rebuild ourselves properly. I moved into a new apartment last month. A studio, smaller than my old place, but it is mine. Every piece of furniture, every dish, every picture on the wall was chosen by me, paid for by me. There are no gaming consoles, no piles of expensive sneakers that never get worn, no man-child making promises he will never keep. Just me, my books, and a small succulent garden on the windowsill. I started therapy. Real therapy. Not just venting to Emma over wine. My therapist helped me understand that I was not stupid for staying so long. I was hopeful. I was generous. I was loving. These are not flaws. The flaw was in someone who took advantage of those qualities. The flaw was in someone who saw my kindness as weakness. I also started dating again. Nothing serious yet, just coffee dates and walks in the park. But now I know what to look for. Or rather, what to run from. The first man who suggested I should pay because I make good money never got a second date. The one who forgot his wallet 3 times in a row was blocked immediately. I have standards now, basic ones, like must have a job and must contribute equally to shared expenses, but apparently those are higher standards than I used to have. Marcus, from what I hear through the grapevine, is living with a new girlfriend now. Someone he met online who lives in Cleveland. I want to warn her, but I know she would not listen. I would not have listened either 4 years ago. Sometimes we have to learn our own lessons. But when she finally Googles his name, she will find the review I left on multiple sites warning future employers about his theft and lies. All facts, all documented, all legal according to my cousin, the paralegal. Here is what I learned from all of this. When someone shows you who they are, believe them. When someone celebrates your absence while you are suffering, that is not love. When someone takes and takes and takes without giving back, that is not partnership, that is parasitism. And you are not required to be anyone's host. I also learned that the best revenge is not really revenge at all. It is simply treating someone the way they have been treating you. Marcus treated me like I was disposable, so I disposed of him. He acted like my contributions meant nothing, so I showed him what nothing really looked like. He wanted to be free from my neediness, so I freed him from everything I had ever provided. Some people have said I went too far. That throwing away his belongings was cruel. That getting his job offer rescinded was vindictive. That creating consequences for his actions was harsh. To those people, I say this. You clearly have never given your entire self to someone who gave you nothing in return. You have never been called needy for expecting basic human decency. You have never supported someone through their journey of finding themselves only to discover they were perfectly happy being lost as long as you were paying for the map. I regret staying for 4 years. I regret every excuse I made for him. I regret every dollar I spent supporting his delusions, but I do not regret a single thing I did after that hospital stay. Not the eviction, not the dumpster, not the truth-telling, not the consequences. That was not revenge. That was recovery. If you are watching this and you see yourself in my story, if you are supporting someone who would not support you, if you are loving someone who only loves what you provide, please know that you deserve better. You deserve partnership, not parasitism. You deserve love, not lies. You deserve someone who shows up when you are broken, not someone who celebrates when you are gone. And if you are someone like Marcus, someone who thinks kindness is weakness, who takes without giving, who builds your life on someone else's foundation, know this, eventually that foundation will crumble. Eventually the truth will surface. Eventually you will find yourself exactly where you belong, in the garbage with the rest of the trash. If my story resonated with you, if it made you think or feel or remember your own worth, please subscribe. I share these stories not for sympathy but for solidarity. We all have our stories of survival. This was mine. Thank you for listening. Thank you for witnessing. And thank you for reminding me that my story matters. All of our stories matter. Even the painful ones. Especially the painful ones. Because sometimes the most painful endings are actually beautiful beginnings in disguise.